You know, when I first started playing golf, I'm sure like a lot of you, I really struggled with a slice. I struggled with hitting the ball too far to the right, and gosh, I tried a lot of different things that just didn't seem to work, and no matter what I did, the ball kept curving right, and this lasted for quite a while until I was able to fix that. And what I did to fix that, what's really transformed my ball striking to go from that weak right slice pattern into a strong draw pattern, is very similar to this drill that we're going to show you today. To my left, Mr. Brendan Kennedy. If you didn't see our previous video, check that one out. And today we're going to do a drill that I saw Brendan doing in a video called, well, I'll call the 4 squares, right? That's really designed to show you what I learned to get me out of that slice and into a draw. So Brendan, I'm sure you see the same sort of players that come through, which might be the player that's watching. They want to hit the ball more solid. They want to hit the ball better. And ultimately, I think all of us kind of like that look of, you know, that strong draw pattern, or certainly what we want to avoid is the embarrassing over slice. And so with that, if you can kind of talk us through how this is set up and what the intention is with this 4 squares here.
Okay, well, and first off, understand that this is an exaggeration, because most people, frankly, are on the slice side of things. So, and there's so much we could go into reasons why. But I've just found that this simple setup and a few exaggerations can get them turning the ball a different way, basically fixing their path and club face, or at least their path. Their face might need a little adjusting, but anyways. But the way I have this set up, this square here is going to be square number 1. So we might throw a T down. This is square number 2, square number 3, and square number 4. Now I'm going to put 2 T's down over here. So the slicer, for whatever reason, is generally coming from the outside in, so they might be swinging from the club's approaching as it gets near the ground from square 2, crosses the ball into square 4. So what we want to do is promote more of an in to out path. So we're going to try to swing, have the club approach from square 1 through the ball into square 3. And again, exaggerations, but as you've said many times in your segments, exaggerations are critical to change anything even a little bit. So
I think exaggerations, like A, if it's going to change at all, and then B, how fast it's going to change is the #1 variable. So like if we look at the club head here, Brendan, and this is what I was, like if we go back to 15-year-old me with the slice, my club head was in square 2 and then would come to square 4 all day long, right? And it took me feeling like these sort of same sensations. I'm going from square 1 here to square 4, and we'll talk through as we go here some of the things that I was doing, you know, to help me, and some of the things that you would do here to help. But even just having an intention, if I stood back here, and if you're doing this drill and you take a look at, let's say I'm going towards a target that's about on this line. But if you look back here and you're looking at square 1 to 4, I'm like, gosh, you know, that really feels like that's going to the right, you know, quite a bit. And so 2 things I would think would come with that. A, I'm going to start to naturally do some different things to try and swing along that way. And then B, if I'm starting to swing along this path, you know, I got to do some things with my club face to get it to curve back. So we should start to put ourselves in the position to do a lot of really good things, yeah?
Absolutely.
So let's say I'm coming in and you got 15-year-old Eric. I'm back here for the lesson. I got this slice pattern, right? We look on it and you say, hey, we got to do this drill here. How would a player start? Like, what's a starting point? Am I doing half swing, full swing?
Yeah, well, I think before you strike the ball, I would make several exaggerated swings. Maybe you set up to the ball, hover your club above the ball, and then start making some swings above it. Maybe you start halfway back, halfway through.
And I'm kind of feeling like I'm like middle of this box to like middle of that box, huh?
Now, if someone has been in that pattern, that habit of coming from square 2 and across to 4, if they've played that way long enough, they're going to educate their hands how to kind of hold on to that club face or that handle so that the face doesn't close where they'd hit it a mile left. So you might have to re-educate your hands. So although I'm not a huge proponent of feeling a lot of crossover for most people, the skill player for the slicer, as you exaggerate 1 to 3, you might have to feel a lot more closing with your hands.
Yeah, just in the beginning.
Just in the beginning,
in the
right.
beginning.
And again, you're going to let your ball flight kind of dictate when you need a little more of something or less. But
so if I'm looking at like the toe relative to the heel, for example, I might even be okay with allowing the toe to get slightly in front of the heel in this initial phase.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And because we want to get to the point where that is our only consideration, that this drill has helped the student correct that leftward path,
Yep.
switch it to a rightward path, where now they just have to come up with a new sensation for how they square the club face.
Yeah.
But at least the ball is starting
Out to
the right. It should be, anyways.
And so if I'm starting with this, like I've got a 9-iron started with, you might start with a short club if you're doing this drill at first. I'm going to hit a couple here, Brendan.
Yeah.
So you can just set this up with clubs on the ground, make a little square and be aware of this. And we're going to talk through some of the nuances here as we go. Now, after I hit 1 or 2, of course, we need to talk a little bit about the club face, like a little grip and club face, just to confirm that. Because high likelihood, if you're in the 2 to 4 box, you got something earlier on that needs a little cleaning up, very likely. But let's say I'm going out towards the red flag. I feel as though this club head is going to be moving. If we had a clock here, so this is 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, I feel like this club head's coming in from probably 4-ish and going out towards 10-ish, right? That's the sensation.
Yeah, it's a great visual.
And a key point here, like if my stock is out here, let's say this box, 2 o'clock, through to here, this is what your normal feels like. You need to feel 4 to 10 just to get to neutral. You have to feel 4 to 10 just to get to neutral. So for the player that we see, I bet you would say the same thing. To actually get it to 4 to 10 in the beginning, you got to feel like 6 to 11, you know? Like it's got to feel wild for it to move a little bit. So I think just for the player to keep that in mind when they're doing this, like 4 to 10 is a feel that might even need to be exaggerated more.
No question. As you know, with everything that we would alter with a student, they're going to have to exaggerate
times
the most they can just to get it to move the needle a little bit. So,
and you and me, we were talking about in our own swings too. Same thing, right? That's all of us. So as I'm starting to hit with this, I'm going to hit through a couple and we'll talk through some pieces. So now as I naturally take my setup, Brendan, I'm wanting to kind of like creep my stance a little in and out. Are we cool with that? Maybe even encourage it?
Absolutely. That, in fact, closing the body lines, the stance line, the terminology is dated, but rather than thinking of those lines as being closed, and yes they are, but I like to think of it as being pre-rotated, because a lot of times slicers just don't move the club inward enough, they don't get enough depth from the shoulder and hip turn. So starting off hedging that way is really a good way to really facilitate what you're trying to do here.
So I'm allowed to have that foot pulled back a little bit. I'm getting the sensation of the club moving in and out. I like that. That's what I felt in the beginning. You know, I definitely had the sensation that the toe was a little more in front of the heel, which I think, again, we can always clean up a little bit as we go.
Absolutely.
So I would start to hit some shots here, and I'm just gonna hit like a 3/4 shot, really feeling the path being exaggerated. And we're gonna start to get some feedback per the ball flight, right? So now I hit that one, it probably drew a yard or 2. So not a ton, right?
Right.
Now, if I'm a slicer and I hit that shot, that would be a step in the right direction. The ball didn't curve to the right, right?
That's right. It started to the right. It turned slightly left.
A little bit of draw. So, and I would say in the beginning, like, I might want to crank that up more. Like, let's get that thing curving left. Maybe over curve it would be better than under curve.
Well, and like you said earlier, let's go back to 15-year-old Eric. Let's be a couple of kids on the range, goofing around. Who can start it the most to the right and turn it the most to the left?
Thing over.
Yeah,
exactly. So I'm not going to be shy with those sensations. So I'm feeling the stance a little closed. I'm feeling that club head from square 1 to the middle of square 2. And you're going to see when you eyeball that, like, that feels a good 30, 40 yards right of the target to me. So I mean, it's definitely going to feel exaggerated.
There we go. That one's turning more.
That's probably a 15-yard draw, I would say, something along those, maybe 20. And so, you know, the other thing I'd like them to know, Brendan, because this is big that we both know, and we could probably do a video a week on this, but you have to make sure this club face piece, closing it more on the way down and through, right, is an aspect of it that we're mentioning here. But really, you know, you'd want to have the club face prepared earlier, ideally, you know, via grip, wrist angles, yada yada. So maybe just as they're doing this drill, just a simple check of like, hey, when I take my lead hand grip, something along the lines of like, we always talk about the snuff box on the right side of the shaft. So this little snuff box on the right of the shaft, or the V collarbone, shoulder, something like that maybe. So just making sure the grip, right? Watch the grip video separate from this. And as they're going back, would you be okay with even, you know, I might even be looking here and like, all right, why don't I keep that toe in front of the heel a little more to make it, I don't have to do as much later on.
No question, yeah. Feeling, in general, the slicer starts off with a weak grip.
Yeah.
Without getting too detailed there, as you've covered it before, but yeah, I would strengthen the grip. And whether I strengthened it or not, I certainly would be trying to keep that sweet spot of the club looking back at the ball as it moves inward. If they close it even, turn it more towards the ground, that's better still, because now they have less to do to square it up at the bottom.
Yes.
But typically they're rolling the face open. That's great if we're hitting flop shots and bunker shots, but not so good in the long stuff. So.
You know, one of the things, Brendan, I liked when I was first doing this, and kind of where I got to with my swing was, I'm feeling like the toes in front of the heel here, kind of club face at the ball, like you mentioned. And I even felt like the toe was a little in front of the heel here. Like, hey, let me do it on both sides. Let me over close this face to path. Because the other thing too, as you get the club face too close to the path, that's going to encourage your path to be more to the right. That gives you motivation to swing more to the right. Just like the open face gave you motivation to swing to the left. So I'm gonna just do one more, and I'm gonna make sure, again, just check your grip video on there. We're getting sensations of box 1 to box 4. If the ball's not curving enough with that, you wanna make sure this club face alignment is good. Give it a little stronger here and stronger there. So I'm gonna feel a little toe in front of the heel. Let's see if I can do like maybe a 30-yarder, huh?
Yeah.
I spend so much time now trying to take some of the hook off. You know, it's funny, this is kind of going back a little.
This video doesn't apply to us.
Yeah. So toe in front of the heel more on both sides. Yeah, that was better.
Very nice.
And so
starts to the right, turns to the left. That's what you're looking for.
That's what I'm looking for.
To change this.
And you know what too, even Brendan, you know, like if I golfed with that, I'd be fine. You know, like in the beginning phases when I was back there, and you might be too, you could ride a large draw to, I rode it to breaking par, you know, shooting under par. And I'm sure you probably had a similar journey where a lot of you, like, you don't rush out of the hook phase. Get into this phase where if you're a slicer, you can hook it and overhook it like that. And like, you should be able to score whatever you want. Then you can, you know, tweak it a little bit, add some pivot stuff in there.
Absolutely.
But live in that phase for a while.
Yeah.
Live in that phase.
It's a good place for a slicer to live.
Gosh, it's a good place for a lot of us to live.
Come
on. So 4 squares here. This was an awesome one that I saw from Brendan. I think that's a good starting point if you're looking to fix your slicer fade pattern and get into a draw phase and stay in that phase for as long as you can. All right, Brendan, thanks, man.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for watching the video. If you watched all the way till the end here, I'm gonna play a little video with this hanger training aid. If you guys haven't seen the hanger training aid, and the reason why we put in so many videos is because it works so good. Not only do I use it all the time in our personal lessons, on our online lessons, but I use it with my own swing, and legitimately me using this and hitting balls with it on, I've gained like literally a full club with all of my irons. The compression is much better. It really helps with the wrist angle. So check this video out. We'll put the details in the description down below. If you have any questions about the hanger, leave them down below. I'd be happy to answer them, because I know this is one of very few training aids I've tried that will genuinely really help your ball striking. Hey guys, today I want to talk to you about the hanger training aid. I absolutely love this. I firmly believe that this is good for every single golfer. This hanger here creates and controls what I think is the most important part of the swing, which is the wrist angle. It snaps right on. It takes me probably 30 seconds to put on. I can put it right in my golf bag, and best of all is you can hit balls with it. You can actually hit balls with it. So I love this hanger training aids. Look at when I do that well, how that sits on my forearm. Now watch when I cut my wrist, how that comes off. Immediate feedback for where my wrist angle's at. No one that can have too flat of a left wrist. One of the few things that all good ball strikers have, we're trying to have. Flat left wrist, right? Super easy to use, incredible immediate feedback. With the coupon code GogornoGolf.com, it's only $59. You're gonna absolutely love it. We'll put all the details down in the description down below.